2 1 2 1 2 1 2. Okay, there we go. Hey, hey! I did a thing. I made a thing work. Holy hell! Oh my god. Okay. Um, I have never changed my streaming setup since Anzac Day this year, and apparently everything's just decided not to work for some reason. But that's okay. I'm here. I'm with you. We're doing this. My name, as it has been for the last 3 minutes, but it has been alone, is Sydney Chris. I am designing a tabletop RPG zine, and I have invited y'all along for the ride for the simple reason that people who come after me think that it's easy because I used to think that it's easy, and now we're going to talk about how it isn't. Um, Fundamentally, uh, I hit a roadblock when I was a little bit sick. I'm still a little bit congested, but I was a bit sick. I set myself an unrealistic time frame, and then I couldn't meet that. And as a result, I was like really down on my own work. And then on the weekend, I spoke to a bunch of other designers because it was a con weekend, and all of those people, we basically shared the issues that we've had in designing games. And I realized that just because I'm finding this incredibly difficult at the moment to make some decisions doesn't mean that I am alone. I'm very much not. Everyone goes through this. I just do it publicly because I'm a fucking idiot. It's a joy to have you here. Um, I have an hour before I need to be ready for work, or before I need to start getting ready for work. So we've got an hour 15, something like that, because I make bad decisions. Um, I want to talk about two things that have been roadblocking me. I want to talk about where I'm up to, and then I want to talk about where. A lot of like flowchart work for this as well. And it's really reminiscent of flowcharts I used to make for Murderous Ghosts, which I wonder if I've got those in here, and we can talk about that. Um, because we're trying to go into the same idea of like loops and stuff. And yes, I do, and it is just as ugly as I remember it being. This is good. Uh, okay, cool. So for some reason, OBS has decided that I don't want to look at this. I don't want to use my specky podcaster mic. I want to use whatever the fuck else uh, I use. Oh, and then we should probably look at like the trophy flowcharts. Hey, so like trophy flowchart. See if that comes up. Huh. Okay. This is. Yes. Okay, cool. So we got three flowcharts to talk about. So, um, that's a completed game. That's a completed game. That's what we're up to. Okay. So, Partners in Crime is a game that I'm trying to talk about reactive design. All games have or can be broken down into a flowchart because all games have flow, but the usefulness of that flowchart depends on the kind of game that we're making. This is the flowchart for Trophy, Jesse Ross's game about horrible people going into a horrible forest and dying horrible deaths. What is the value of this flowchart? I'm not sure because this isn't how I learn, but it's beautiful. This is Garrett's version, I believe. But what it does is it breaks down this very complex idea into a series of micro decisions, right? And that's pretty much what we're trying to do as well. This is the Murderous Ghost flowchart that I made. It is very large and has a lot going on because that is a very large game that I broke down by page rather than by concept, and that was a bad idea in trying to do this. But the important thing to look for is that you have this start loop that is only entered into by the beginning of the game, and then that tracks all the way down to this kind of like, oh, cool. I started calling them other things based on my hack. That's bad. So this is ignore, I guess, what these are called. But oh, sorry. Goodness. So these are these first loops. Like you can see, this first one here, this first page doesn't get entered into by any other loop. It stays on its own. Once you get into this second bit, it has a feed in here and it has a feed out, and that means it's now kind of like part of this core game process. So this is what I call a tutorial loop, and it's very useful, and we will talk about that. And we also need to talk about the last one, which is over here, which is our exit loop. And we can see the exit loop feeds in from a lot of different places. That's not the exit loop because you've got last breath. Here we go. This is our exit loop here. And we can see that like all of these have different ways of feeding out of the game, to the point that, holy hell, this is our exit here, the death of the character. And there's another one here, and they feed in from different places, which is interesting. But they don't use the same one. I will have to look into why that is. Anyway, that's what that flowchart looks like. This is what Partners in Crime looks like at the moment. It's not great, and it has some issues. This should be called... Oh no, trigger's good. We have an introductory loop that I don't know what it looks like. We move into the starting of a heist. That heist begins. Then we can either move into an intimacy section, or we can move into an escalation of that heist. Then we can escape, or the police can come. Then we can run for it or shoot it out. Then we can... If we do shoot it out, we should move into here as well. And if we shoot it out, then we can go into hardcore intimacy, or someone can get hurt, and then eventually we can escape. And that's the thing about flowcharts. God knows why we do them. Cool. So, reactive design. I talk a lot about complicity. Complicity is the ability for players to understand the consequences of the decisions they make prior to them making them, which makes them feel like they are the victims of their own decision making rather than of chance. Complicity. We enter into complicity here because these outcomes are very clear to the players, and these questions are asked about the outcomes. So you only interact with risk your mind or body when you are asked, will you risk your mind or body, and you say yes, which generates that complicity. Murderous Ghosts is fundamentally different because it doesn't ask you the question that it is going to answer for you. Let's bring Murderous Ghosts up and we can talk about it. Okay, Murderous Ghosts. When Murderous Ghosts is going to ask you a question, it asks you it like this. It says, what is the worst part? Choose and tell the MC. Its body, its face, its eyes, its hands, its smell. Actually, this is not the version that I want, because I want the first version. What's the worst thing this suggests to you? Choose and tell the MC which. Betrayal, cruelty, madness, revenge, sorrow. A threat to me, here and now. And then it has these page numbers. At no point does it tell you what's on these pages prior to you turning to them, which means that you've got, if you choose cruelty and you turn to 20, and at 20, tell the MC the closest you've ever been to death, you're engaging with this without knowing that was the consequence that you're going to engage with. And it helps to generate like the feeling of tension that Murderous Ghost is trying to develop. You are out of control. I'm not sure if I want to lean into that or if I want to go closer to the partners, to the trophy version of it, where it's known. And this is a lot of what I'm coming to here, which is that I need to make decisions and I don't know how to make them. So let's look at an example of a thing that I have done. So what I want to do first is, let's talk about the characters. Should we talk about white room design or black room design? We should. Okay. My beautiful face. Okay. There is a concept that I'm calling white room design or black room design or something like that, but I don't know what it's called in the industry. And the idea is, when you are making a game that is like a platformer or something like that, when you're making a video game, your first priority is not to make a good loop. I've spoken before about core loops and how they're important to design. Your first priority is not to make your core loop. Your first priority is to make a character that feels good. If they were in a room with nothing around, would they still feel good to control, right? And what that does is it allows your players this axis of interaction where they don't need to engage with conflict all the time to be having fun. A really good example of this is like Mario in Odyssey is just fun. Just super fun. Super dynamic. Can engage with an empty environment really well. Is really self-reliant in like a lot of the good movement stuff. It's why when you talk about the first section of Super Mario 64, it's this like empty courtyard because players are new to 3D and they need to like figure out how to move in that environment, and it's just really satisfying. And so my first goal was to make characters that, even if I didn't give them anything to do, would be interesting. Make characters that even if I handed a sheet of paper to someone and said, you are this character, and handed a sheet of paper to someone else and said, you are this character, they could engage with each other in this like interesting and fun way. If you want the best example of that, it's Good Society. Good Society, a Jane Austen role-playing game, is about making characters that are fun inherently. You get to be all prissy and Elizabeth Bennet-like. You get to have fierce desires, and you get to engage over really petty stakes. But even without those stakes, they're a joy. And that's part of what makes Good Society really hooky, really delightful. Lady Blackbird's got a really similar thing, Blake, you're right, which is that, like, those characters, especially, what's his name? The pilot, Squeak or Squawk or something like that. The Lady Blackbird is a steampunky sci-fi space adventure about getting a lady of a royal house out so that she can go and meet her pirate lover. But even without the stakes, the characters are interesting because they're like Malcolm Reynolds from Firefly, and they're a bodyguard with fists that can punch through stone, and like they're just interesting, developed characters, and that's actually something that Lady Blackbird does well. I'm sure I have Lady Blackbird somewhere. I don't have time to get this off track, but I love Lady Blackbird so much. Lady Blackbird, that's not the right one. I need you to come over to my other window. Why would you do this to me? Can't fix it because I'm streaming live and I don't know. There we go. Aha. Okay. This is Lady Blackbird, as revised by Jesse Ross, which makes it much better. Characters: Natasha Siri, who is Lady Blackbird, an imperial noble in disguise escaping an arranged marriage so she can be with her lover. This is a delightful pitch for a character, and it makes them particularly it makes her particularly interesting. And in a white room, Lady Blackbird is a beautiful game to play. Imperial noble, master sorcerer, athletic, charm, cunning. Beautiful. We don't need anything else. We don't need any mechanics. We just need former pit fighter, loyal to Lady Blackbird. You're a living weapon. Yeah, like, this is all super cool stuff. The fact that Secret of Destruction, you can break things with your bare hands if you're swinging a sledgehammer, that's super cool as well. That is kind of what we need to capture. So, let's talk about my characters to begin. The Tinder. Big dreams, small beginnings. You could be a small town girl destined for Hollywood like Bonnie Parker. A struggling elven merchant tired of a life accosted by roaming bandits, or a skilled swordsmith dreaming of a pirate's life. That is, what's his name from Pirates of the Caribbean? Will. The important thing is that you have big ambitions, enormous needs, and no other way of fulfilling them than a life of crime. So, that should be a particularly that should be an engaging character on its own. Big ambitions, enormous needs, and no resources. The Spark is a hotshot criminal, fierce, sharp, bright as hell. There's a special kind of freedom that comes from having nothing left to lose, and it's a power you wield willingly. You could be an Estonian highwayman trying to make back your due inheritance. You could be an outcast samurai reappropriating the treasures of a false emperor. The important thing is that you've got a ton of plans with what to do with that loot and not a lot of reasons not to. That should be an interesting character in a white room, is the hope. This is the next bit, which is how we tie them together. The Spark is your way out. Something about them is attractive. Maybe it's the sight of a fierce woman with a big gun and a devilish plan. Every ounce of sense tells you to run. I want you to remember one thing. They are your only chance to get what you deserve. And then for the Spark, the Tinder is your fuel. Something about them is attractive. Maybe it's the way they look up to you. Maybe it's the sight of someone in the middle of a firefight that has no business being there. Something draws you to them and keeps you there. Even when it would be easier to do this alone, I want you to remember one thing. Without them, you have nothing left. So hopefully these are two interesting characters. That's my White Room design. That was an important part of how I started this. Because now I need to support those characters, not force those characters. Let's talk about push-pull. Push-pull was an idea that someone wrote about on Twitter the other day, and it put a really good term to what I've been calling reactive design. And the discussion was basically, Twitter, do some searching. It's not gonna. Great. This is just my technology day, isn't it? So the idea is, games can either push you toward doing the thing that they want, or it can pull you away from okay, push pull, here we go. Here we go, scene collection. Okay. In theatre, there's this idea about push first pull in scenes and character motivations. Ever play the improv game where you have to get someone to leave a park bench? Pushing is trying to annoy the other person into leaving, pulling is falling down and implying you need their help. Pushing is a common tactic in video games. The HUD says go here and push X next to the glowing box. That's the devs pushing you forward. If the game gives you one or more tools and says figure it out, that's pulling. Motivation is internal or external pull versus push. So, the question is PBTA pushes and trad games pulls, or is D&D the push and PBTA is the pull? This is interesting in the way that all discussions about genre and terms are interesting, because there will inevitably be conflict about it, but that's great. Thesis, antithesis, synthesis, right? We need to disagree about stuff. So let me talk about how I see PBTA, because Barry Cook said Monster Hearts is inherently reactive. Not inherently reactive. What did you say, Barry? You said Monster Hearts seems reactive, but depends on the GM to fulfill agendas. Okay. So, PBTA, I believe, are inherently push games for two reasons. One is that the tools are hyper-specific. Yes, Barry doesn't have a position. Barry's trying to figure out what I mean. When a game says, what's a good example? Night Witches is a great example. Fucking great example. I just need to find the right thing. The reason that Night Witches is a push game is that the interaction of mechanics. Yes, cool. So, in Night Witches, a game about being female pilots in World War II, you go into this night phase where your PO2 is hit by bullets or flak, which it pushes you into doing enemy fire by... you have to do an attack run. You have to lead an attack on the target. You can't really choose not to, or you're not playing the game under the bell curve. You're not playing the game in good faith. On a 10 plus, your payload connects, but maybe you trigger enemy fire. And then you do trigger enemy fire, because of course you do, because this is a game about planes, and planes are fun when they're getting shot down. So, enemy fire, then, or a plane is damaged. Either one is going to work for what we're trying to do here. Enemy fire. When your PO2 is hit by bullets or flak, roll plus luck. On a 10 plus, your plane is damaged. Or another plane in your section goes down / is damaged. Or there's casualties on board. Either one of these help to push into the next section, which is, during your day moves, you now have a damaged plane. So you have to engage with the repair move. If a plane has been torn up or broken down, roll plus skill. On any hit, you patch it together and it's no longer damaged. This is inherently push design, because what it says is, when you want this outcome, and you do want these outcomes, when you want your plane to be patched together, or, and no longer damaged and stuff, you have to engage with this move. A really good example of this is in Breath of the Wild, in Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. There are problems in that game that can be solved in multiple ways, including in ways the developers didn't think about. And speedruns are a really good example of that, when the players stasis a tree, and then they sit on that tree, and then they ride it across the thing, and then they're using mechanics that are inherent to the game, but they're doing that to generate an outcome that the designers didn't expect. And that's part of pool design. So PBTA, by creating a network of moves that interact with each other and a network of currencies that exist in that space, is push design. Murderous Ghosts is push and pull design. This is pull design. What's the worst thing this suggests to you? Choose and tell the MC which. This is really reactive design, right? It's like, when you feel betrayal, cruelty, madness, revenge, sorrow, or a threat exists here, then we can interact with these mechanics. Whereas PBTA is saying, these mechanics are here for you. You have to interact with them, or you're not playing the game. You could feasibly, as Murderous Ghost, this is fed into by this page, by the MC. Describe the space the other player is in. Describe evidence of violence that remains here. Evidence can be real or physical. Tell the other player to turn to 2. Answer the other player's questions. So answer the other player's questions is really important, because this is saying that we could feasibly play a game where for an hour and a half you describe this space and I ask you questions, because I never get to betrayal, cruelty, madness, revenge, sorrow, or a threat. So feasibly, that is how this game can be played. This is much more what I'm interested in at the moment. I'm interested in trusting my players. You'll know who Bonnie and Clyde are. You'll know who the low-life cyber squall wanting to escape Elysium and the chromed out deck jockey with a Hyperion pulse gun are. You know those character types. I trust you to develop them. I'm just here to support you. So, my tutorial loop, wow, we're half an hour in and we have not talked about any of the work I've done. This is why I'm not achieving anything. Reactive design, characters that feel good to play. If you put your rules away, you would probably end up in the same place. The rules simply help you when you need to help. When you versus if you. PBTA is framed as when you, because it expects you to do the things. I'm trying to frame things as if you, because I'm offering you the opportunity to react to doing them. Really small, I don't know if it's benefit, but I like it. Yes. So, this is the good society thing I was talking about. Understandable characters that are supported by fiction. And I mean this like external fiction. This is, everyone has engaged with Jane Austen because everyone's done an English class sort of thing. Or everyone's at least aware. Easy stakes and clear agenda. I need a clear agenda, which means goals. Clear goals. I don't have clear goals for my characters yet. Not mechanically supported ones, at least. Interesting. First loop. The first loop should be supportive and gentle. So, as part of the put... See, this is This is why we be really careful about. Yo, cool, dope. I guess I just don't get to have a face anymore. Okay, okay, cool. There we go. Fuck everything about OBS today. Um, the inherent problem with dividing games up into this is a push game, this is a pull game, this is push zone, this is pull zone, is that it's not true. There are versions of each and everything. So I've just said that Murderous Ghosts has pull design, but like, how is this not push? Describe the evidence of violence that remains here. That's like, this is, it should absolutely be apparent to the other player. This is inherently push design, right? Like, it's telling you do this thing. It and by the same token, like there are parts of night witches like this when you reach out. When you reach out to someone, reveal a significant new. That's actually the significant new truth makes that a bit pushy. This one, act up. When you try to get your way by acting like a hooligan, acting like a lady, or acting like a natural born Soviet airwoman, none of those are codified. You get to decide what that means, and that's a very pulley part of that design. So everything is more complex than it needs to be, which means we don't have an easy answer. So, the first loop should be gentle and supportive of play. I played a game on the weekend called Live, Love, Die, Remember, and I drew on my hand for it, and it was a very good, fun game. It is by Ray Cox and Finn Baneel, both of whom are amazing at their design here. That game begins by saying, you are a mech who loves your pilot. Let's talk about why. And then you kind of make decisions about that. The first loop of Live, Love, Die, Remember is it's Finn. Hi Finn, I miss you. The first loop of Live, Love, Die, Remember is about figuring out why you love your mech. Like, who are you? What were you built for? Why do you love the person? There's no conflict. There's no stakes, and there's no demands made on you other than make this decision. Like, pick one from a list. Maybe you can roll and do it randomly. That is a tutorial loop. It is very easy to get into. It is very kind. When I talk about tutorials, I always love talking about Portal, which, by the way, Portal is a really good example of Wat Room design as well, because when you play Portal, you could fuck around with portals forever. It is like, it's fun. The inherent physics of that system is fun. So let's talk about, like, I wonder if I can find like Portal level design or like a Portal walkthrough or something, and then we can talk about how that works. No. Okay. We're gonna go to YouTube and find a Portal walkthrough, because we're gonna talk about tutorial loops, because they're useful. My favorite part of this is doing a YouTube video on my YouTube video. This is the thing. Okay. Portal is a game about moving through a space. We're even going to go past all of the stuff before you get the portal gun. So, yes, this is interesting. Okay, this is interesting. So, this is one of our first rooms in which we have a puzzle to solve. The important thing that I want you to see here is that there's no threat. Okay, we can make a mistake here, and if we do, we fall onto safe floor. But then we continue, and we solve the puzzle. If we fail in that section, if we make a choice that is maybe not like the right choice in this game, it allows us to... can I like full screen this without it being a problem? Yeah, here we go. It allows us to fail without there being a problem. Here's another example. You know, safe area. You miss the box. You can jump down. You can fix it. And then you can solve the puzzle and you can leave. Now, the example I want to go to is the one I was at before, which is this one, I think. No, not this one. This one, the next one. Here we go. This is after a couple of other ones. Now all of a sudden we have this like poisonous goop at the bottom, right? If we make a mistake here in our movement, in where we send this ball or in where we send our character, we die. Like if you miss this platform and you fall off it, you have to restart the level. There is now a failure state. So that is interesting to me because that Partners in Crime has an explicit failure state, which is not a failure state. It has a specific end state that, depending on your opinions, may or may not be bad. There's a line in the Broadway show that's echoed in the Timeless episode of Bonnie and Clyde, which is, "Dying ain't so bad if you go together." So that end state is, of course, two people in the car being shot up by highwaymen, which means I need loops that Partners in Crime flowchart. I need loops that end with people getting shot. I need loops that end with bad stuff happening. But the question is, so this Last Stand is actually quite generous. What I'm saying is, Bonnie and Clyde die horribly. That's what this bubble is. The important thing, what I can't do is I can't enter this loop from here. Or I can't enter it from here. Because the game lacks satisfying conclusion when we engage with when there's no escalation, when there's no arc for the characters, right? You walk into the bank and I put a little tag at the bottom that says, if you're ever outgunned, turn to this page. You walk into the bank and you say, this is a stick up, we're here for the bank's money, not for yours. And then what? You draw the wrong card, you flip the wrong coin, you roll the wrong dice, and all of a sudden you fucking die horribly. Like, no, that's not how this game works. So this Last Stand can only be entered into from here, maybe. And you know what? Like, maybe it can be entered into from here. Maybe. And probably the same for here as well. So maybe there's like a... Maybe there's actually one in the middle that like feeds into it, right? That's like the decision that you make. So like here, there's one that's like, what do we call it? It's over. Draw.io, if you ever need flowcharts, it's amazing. And then It's Over feeds out into Dying Horribly and The Great Escape. Or, perhaps even better, I'll turn myself in. You run. There you go. There's 3 outcomes. Done. So, the important thing is how to get to these end states from this introductory loop. So this is all really functional stuff, right? This is This is what makes the game kind of work. This is the usability bit. The actual delightful bit is in the text. So let's have a look at like an example of a thing that I want. Cool. So, this is the format that I have at the moment. This is the kind of title theme that I'm talking about. These are the tones that I want to hit inside it. Although Haley of the Story Brewers had a really good point here when she said, rather than telling people your tone or even having tones kind of in mind when writing them, why don't you let the natural escalation of this drive what that tone is? So we'll consider that. So, okay. Each of these has 3 parts. It has the setup and like how to support the players. It has reactions, and then it has places it feeds. So, the moments before, we're sitting in a car. Bonnie ask Clyde or I actually need to get back to like using Spark and Tinder for these, but it was kind of written out of order. But like the Spark, ask the Tinder, ask your criminal partner for the plan again. If the plan reminds you of how they are focused, you tell them and then you turn to a page. They're untamed, you tell them, you turn to a page. They're brave, they're ambitious. Now, this is tutorial loops because tutorial loops are positive. Tutorial loops are safe. This couldn't work if it was like Clyde is unlovable. Unlovable. Clyde is a threat to you. This doesn't work, and I know that because the original ones were like reckless, were violent, impulsive, and they don't feel good. This is part of the Spark deciding why they love the Tinder, and it's because they're focused, untamed, brave, ambitious. Something about this is kind. So this is an introductory loop. So it needs to be positive, and that kind of doesn't work anymore. This is to help them fall in love, right? This mirrors this murderous ghost one, betrayal, cruelty, madness, and when we go to 18 for 20 for cruelty, we've already done cruelty. Madness, tell the MC who is your most important role model. We're fleshing out character, right? This is that. Another good example of this is the start of Fall of Magic. Digital edition. No, Fall of Magic. No. Why is it a zip file? What the hell? Extract here. Yes to all. Okay, here we go. This is better. Scroll. Oh, interesting. Okay, Fall of Magic is a storytelling game about moving across a location. It's kind of like a Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit like journey. These are the first prompts. The prompts are about figuring out who you are, why you why you serve, what you look like, who you've left behind, and then as it gets further and further in, yeah, that's cool. That's cool PDFs. You just freeze real good. There we go. It gets into that one's kind of reflective, so I need to. Here we go. How are they like beasts? Where we disagree, a bit of conflict. The debt that you owe. This sort of stuff is really like about generating conflict. So these first results are things like remind Bonnie why she can trust you, remind Bonnie what made you fall in love with her, remind Bonnie of your plans of a life after crime. They're nice. They're like engagingly kind. They are gentle. And then we move into the heist. Play through the heist, tell her what you do, ask what she does, share responsibility for the rest of the world. If you make clear demands of someone for the loot, roll outlaw, then there's outcomes. If there's a moment when you're proud of Bonnie, tell her to turn to this. If someone pulls a gun on either of you, tell her to turn to this. This is probably going to change to like if you and your spark touch, tell them to turn to that. It's probably going to turn into that because I think I want it to be more. I think I want it to be both more and less, or more accessible, but less likely than this moment. And then there's a standoff. You react to the threat, play through the situation, give the characters life and studs. Okay, this is why we need to talk about why this isn't working. This isn't working because of... I want to talk about Girl Underground for a second. Girl Underground is a 2019 game by Jesse Ross and Lauren McManaman. It is amazing, but it is also fundamentally different from what I'm trying to do here in a way that I need to talk about the difference between like reference documents and play documents. So, here's an example. Do I have any D&D stuff? I do. Oh, this is going to be perfect. Okay. Do I have the characters? I do. Okay. So, we get to talk about D&D, which is great. Oh, I forgot how long this one usually takes. Okay, cool. Reference documents versus play documents. This is a reference document. It is very text heavy. It has a lot of information. Not all of it is particularly accessible. It is designed to be read outside of the play experience. Barry, we need to talk about how you would design this specific thing, because I need you to fix this for me. So, it's going to be Partners in Crime by Cook Icarus, not me anymore. I'm okay with that. So, this is a reference document. It's fucking impenetrable, but it's designed to be functional, right? In our tower of stuff that we've always talked about, there is very little delight in this game, except for the like fantasy nature of it, right? Vibrant expression, a gnome's energy and enthusiasm for life shines through every inch of his or her tiny body. This is very delightful. This is delightfully written, but it's presented like fucking like a textbook, right? This is a play document. This is accessible. It is... We can see my strength modifiers on the left. We can see my abilities here on the like right. These are my weapons. It is designed, It is designed to be totally used during a play session. Now the issue is the Girl Underground, which I either have to show you on thing, or I have to re-download it because I think I only have it on my laptop as a PDF. I'll just download it. It's fine. Girl Underground is a beautiful zine, but it is also, especially at the beginning, it is like a reference document, right? Like, I don't even want you to be able to read it. I just want to talk about like how this is designed to not be read during play. Oh, by the way, can we talk about this art? Actually, I have it up on PDF now. PDF. If you don't have Girl Underground, go to Drive-Thru-RPG and get it. Seriously, what's it going for these days? Oh, it's not on the thing. It's just no. That's cool. I fucking get it. I don't know how you get it, but get it. Okay. This is Girl Underground's reference document. I want to talk first about how beautiful this art is. This is something I want to do. I want to have moments like this in the game because this is delightful. This is fundamentally a joy. Okay, this is all reference. We have reference all the way through. This is what our play documents look like, and like, this is what I mean by it's going to be fundamentally different. This is a very good play document, but it is also still really as part of the zine function. The reference documents and the play documents are the same thing. Because when we talk about the girl in the reference, we use this same page, and this page is then copied as a play document. This is really good. I love how these moves are laid out, to be honest. But this is really good and beautiful. But it's not what I want in my game. What I want instead, we have about 15 minutes left, is I want, and this is why I'm having a problem, because the sheer volume of text that exists on this page doesn't work with what I'm trying to do reactively. This is how much text I want on a page. I want like 26 words, maybe? I want 43 words of text, and that's a title. And this probably isn't going to make it into the actual thing. I don't want this to be like... and this is a problem with Murderous Ghosts. Is Murderous Ghosts is not delightfully laid out. Look at this. Like, nothing about that is special. Nothing about that invokes anything. I want you to compare, like, Murderous Ghosts with, where are the things? Look at the Adventurer's Bazaar. The Adventurer's Tomb, sorry. Look how, like, delightful. It's got a little bit of a picture there. It's got some, like, some nice density. It's got these nice flares on the title. Like, this is beautiful. And when you look through the text and, like, this is all really delightfully presented. And a part of that is because Jesse Ross is one of the best people working in RPG layout at the moment. Murderous Ghost is not, but it is incredibly accessible as a play document, right? Because this is a page. You can, and these hard lines really help in this too. A ghost is reacting to the other player's presence. Choose one of these, very very obvious in its layout. You either choose, or the other player tells you, say what the ghost is like, how it acts, remember the violence it represents, and then we get to these, like, if it approaches the player, if it loses interest. Oh, this is actually, I didn't realize Murderous Ghost did this. This is the kind of reactive design I want to do. So, but I don't want this. Okay. So, Murderous Ghosts, boy. Vincent and I are very different writers, and I love it because it means that there's so many wonderful games out there, but it's also a difficult thing. Murderous Ghosts is very much pushing you towards its outcome, whereas I want to follow. So this is, if it approaches, if it loses interest, but it's telling you to pick one or the other. Whereas what I want to do is I want to say, I want to say this. So the way this game will work is, zine in hand, I will pull this up, and I'll say, page 20, sirens. Oh shit, like, let's play through this. I hear sirens in the distance, wide-eyed and frightened, because this is the spark that's saying this. Wide-eyed and frightened, I look to you, Clyde, and I say, like, it's the cops, like, they're coming for us, they're here. What happens next? And then what I like about it is, because we only have the 43 words, I know that all I'm looking for is fighting your way through and running. So I can actually put my book down and just fucking play this out with you for, like, you know, I slide up to the window and I look out and I see that, 2 or 3 cars have pulled up to the front. You're like, yeah, great idea. I take the back door and I like open the back door just a crack, and I poke it out with my pistol, like leading the way, and I take a look, and I see that there's snipers. There's snipers in the windows that have surrounded us, and I like quickly pull my head back in as a shot, plinks off the door frame. And now we're playing with each other, not with the text. And this is something I want to look for in this reactive design. So if and then eventually someone makes a decision, right? And explicitly, anyone can make that decision. Implicitly, the Tinder makes the decision, but I'm okay with anyone. It doesn't say if your Tinder says you're fighting the way through. It doesn't say if the Tinder decides to run. It says if that happens. So the cool thing is, while the game wants the Tinder to make the decision, if they don't, the spark can just be like, I grab you by the shoulder and say, I'm not here to kill people. Let's go. We're running. And then I can make the decision to turn to the page myself. Now, I'm explicitly depriving, because I am reading my page and you don't see it. You see, like, my cover. I'm explicitly depriving the other player of complicity because I don't want to push them towards a decision. I want to follow and support their natural fiction, rather than telling them, if you're fighting, you get to use the fight stat. If you're running, you get to use the run stat, and here are the consequences for each of them, which is what PBTA does. And it drives you. It says, if you're interested in these consequences, fight. If you're interested in running, run. But that's and the consequences inherent to that. But I'm not playing with big concepts here. I'm playing with, like, cops and robbers. You fucking know the consequences. The consequences are someone gets shot or you get away. Like, it's not difficult. So I don't need the complicity in order to drive players towards the play experience they want. I need to follow the story they want. So the way this works is, if it's the fucking cops, look clever what's happening next, we play out, bullet plinks off the door frame, I run up to you, I grab you by the shoulder, and I whisper in your ear, like, we're fucking surrounded, honey. And you, like, what do you do? And this is all built out of Danger Zone a lot too, which I should talk about Danger Zone one time and how Danger Zone's I actually just realized that Danger Zone, which is a little one-page fighter pilot game that I made a long time ago, is basically what I want from this. Barry, you and I should play Danger Zone on stream. Yeah, that's definitely something we need to do. Fucking cops, look to what's happening next, fighting your way through. Yeah, cool. So then the decision's made. We're running. So I tell the Tinder to turn to a page, and we have the getaway. And so the C is for Clyde here, but this will be the Tinder. So panic, haste, terror, gunshots and dogs barking, more than you bargained for. Get the hell out of Dodge. If you have a chance to lose them, roll outlaw. I think I might use coins for a bunch of reasons, but anyway, engage with the outlaw mechanic. These randomizers are important. Haley pointed this out to me. Randomizers are important for the micro loop to make each one more playable, so that if we get cornered again, we don't know what the outcome's going to be. And if we don't, then and it's also important from a macro level, in that, like, it brings variety to a story. Anyway, we'll talk about that later. I don't have time to talk about that now. Gunshots and dogs barking. Oh, so you passed the book to me, and I received the book from you, and now I'm reading my one. Gunshots and dogs barking, and you can only see my cover. Get the hell out of Dodge. If you get the chance to lose them. So what we need to do is develop a scene where there's a chance to lose them. Now, if the plan changes to dig in and shoot out, tell Bonnie to turn to XXX, which is the thing. So I can put the book down. All I need to keep in my head is, do we get a chance to lose them, or do we decide to shoot it out? That's it. That's all I need to remember. So then we can tell our story to each other. We, I slide through the window. We put our hats on two of the people in the bank so that the snipers still think we're in there. We slide out of the window, loot in hand. We're running across the thing, and the sirens are screaming behind us, and one of the cops sees us, and they're like, "Hey, stop!" And we like charge down, and we duck under a fence, and maybe like I boost you up. You run with like your impractical dress swishing about, and I boost you over a fence, and then I climb up above, and you're like, yeah, and then I pull you over, and we actually dive into a doghouse, and we wait in the doghouse, and we hear the footsteps run past. Okay, cool. We have a chance to lose them. Engage with the mechanic, roll a fucking dice. Either we get cornered, we get out of there, or one of you takes the bullet on your way out. Turn to these ones. And then someone gets shot. So, holy fuck has been shot, roll other. Now, this is the kind of one where some of these pages, I actually want people to turn through them pretty quickly. So it's like, holy fuck, he's been shot. Roll other. 1 to 7, he can barely move. He'll hold you back and you both know it. Turn to a different page. And on that page, it's going to be like, make a decision, like that's when you play out the scene. But this is about generating a fact. And these ones are useful for the moments between here when I want to be like, I just need to generate. So, for example, run for it and it's over. What is it that gets us here? We just have this one bit here that's like, Clyde gets shot, gets capped, gets winged, I feel is more Bonnie and Clyde appropriate. And then that is the reason that it's over. So run for it isn't over on its own. It needs this fact generated, right? So that's what some of these pages are going to be like. But primarily, it's going to be a small prompt and then a response. My issue is using the gorgeous girl underground as an example. Like, how do I design a game that uses, like, what do you reckon? What do you reckon the word count is on this page? 400? Maybe? Like, I'm talking about using 10% of the text that is used on this page. How do I design a game that has the same footprint with 10% of the content? And that's my issue, is that I don't know if this needs to be bigger. Yeah, Barry, I looked into making Twine games for my paramedicine study, and it is a thing that I've decided not to do. And mostly because if you're going to make this a Twine game, right? So Twine is interactive fiction. Interactive fiction is inherently GM'd because the fiction GMs your experience. It doesn't say more than you bargained for. It says explicitly, as you blah 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 blah, there are too many police and you thought you could get out but you can't. Now what do you do? Whereas Twine games are inherently push because they have a limited set of outcomes. This theoretically has an infinite set of outcomes, but only some of them engage with mechanics, which is the most trad you can be anything bullshit I've ever said in my life. So yeah. Shootout. This is what the shootout looks like. You're surrounded, build up tension. If the shooting starts, roll outlaw. One of you is shot and bad. Fight your way out. When you're safe, tell him to turn to this. It's chaos between there and here. You'll get out, but during the escape, something else happens. I don't actually know what these are yet. Now we need to talk about intimacy loops a little bit as well. I have like 10 minutes left. Yeah. So Okay. These intimacy loops are meant to come in anywhere, so we're meant to be able to jump into intimacy very easily. Surface intimacy are the ones that are good and positive. An example of that is share with Bonnie dreams you've had about each other. It's like the whole world stops except for the two of you. Focus on the space between you. If she reminds you that she shines in the spotlight, if she reminds you that she deserves riches and wealth, if she reminds you that she's fucking hot, that she's fucking banging hot, then you turn to this page. The demanding ones are like this escalating intimacy where we're making demands of each other, and it is bullshit. This is the toxic part of Bonnie and Clyde's relationship, right? It's like, the demanding intimacy is like, tell her, come on, baby. Oh my god. I accidentally closed the page and now it's a mess. The demanding parts of the intimacy are like this. Show Bonnie what you need from her right now. Be desperately precise and incredibly clear. An example of this is, I've been fucking shot. Put pressure on the wound and carry me out of here. Like, I'm bleeding from my arm. My leg doesn't work. I'm gonna need you to carry me out of here. As you play through that, if you decide she can give it to you, you turn to something. If you decide she can't give it to you, now this is not about whether she says she will or she won't or whatever. You just make the decision as a player or as a character. Bonnie can be like, I do it. I like get you under my arm and I'm like supporting it and we're carrying each other. If you decide she can't, like this isn't going to work, you just turn to a different page, which I really like this. What I don't like about it at the moment is that these two, I only really have two intimacy loops, and I'm entering them from a bunch of different places. It's not actually shown here, but the idea is kind of in the low tension parts of the heist, you can enter the low tension intimacy, and in the high tension parts of the heist, you enter the high tension intimacy, right? What I haven't displayed well is that, actually, no, I kind of have here, is that I have to be able to come out of this into different points of the heist. And at the moment, this text only allows me to... It kind of needs to look like, if you decide she can give it to you, and then it's like, option A, end your under fire, tell her to turn to XX. Option B, and you're in control of the heist or whatever, right? Like, and you've just started to rob some shit. To robbery do. Tell her to turn to XX. That's kind of what it needs to look like, because it needs to be able to exit this loop at multiple places. It needs to be able to exit it both in the heist framing, and it needs to be able to exit it into the sirens. Actually, probably more in this like low tension heist. Whereas Run For It only ever has to exit at like we escape, right? Like it only ever has to exit into like either someone gets killed or we get out safely. And that's a benefit of the specificity of this prompt, and also a detriment of the specificity of that prompt. So the issue I have at the moment is that I know what I want my play experience to look like. I know how to generate that play experience, but I don't know how to generate it within the form factor that I've given. So what are we going to do between now and our next discussion? Between now and the next time we talk. I hope people have enjoyed this one. It's been interesting. It's been interesting for me. So let's talk about between now and next. Like we talked about push-pull, we talked about reactive play. What else did we talk about? Design, like just like page design and how that works, and also play versus reference. I think that's been kind of cool. I really like the idea of play versus reference because this is a play document. Fall of Magic is a play document. You know, a really good example of this actually, in For the Queen, which I don't have a copy of to show you. The instructions are printed on cards that you play and like read out, and that's how the game is played. And it's a really cool thing. Oh, actually, that's a thing. That's the thing. So For the Queen does questions as prompts. Maybe I could do that. So it'd be like, instead of like focus on the space between you, I could be like, what dreams have you had about each other? What do you notice in frozen time that you've never seen before? What's the one from For the Queen? What makes what about them makes you feel beautiful? Something like that. Like the prompts could be questions. Maybe? Like maybe, right? Maybe it's something I want to look at. Anyway, between now and the next one. The first thing I actually need to do is develop some layout. I need to create like a test layout to check word density, I guess. I need to make sure, can 40 words carry a page? Danger Zone. I need to make time for Barry Cook and I to play Danger Zone. A fighter pilot game about saying dumb shit. What else do I need? I don't think I can write any more text until I have basic layout. I need some test images to represent art, which I can do myself. Learn to draw. What else do you think we need? Like, what else do we need between now and the next time we hang out? I reckon if I create some test layout, maybe like some, because okay, before I play test, I need a full flowchart to understand how each page folds in. So I guess I need something like Chico rolls. I haven't had a Chico roll in like, holy shit, Ollie. When's the last time I've had a Chico roll? Like 10 years, maybe? I think I would die if I had a Chico roll at the moment. So full flowchart to understand how each page folds in, which means I need page numbers. I need to start making decisions about page numbers. I need a mechanic or two, and I need Barry, 20 Chico rolls would murder you. The sheer amount of salt and MSG would you'd think you'd explode. I'll have to do a thing one day on what Chico rolls are. Mechanical 2, and I need like quote unquote finalized text, right? Not finalized text. I need actionable draft text. Okay, so this is what I need before I playtest. So what do I need before we talk next? We need to do Danger Zone because it's a good test bed for this. We need test images. Yeah, all right. So I reckon between now and the next time we talk, I will have a layout. Barry and I will play Danger Zone. We might even do that as like the start, as like the first half hour of the stream or something like that. And then we'll do test images to represent art. Which means that I won't have a date or a time for the next one because Barry and I will need to get together and nut our schedules out. But what I will do is... oops, that's not what I wanted. I will find Danger Zone. And I will put that up on screen for a little bit, just so we can talk about that. Danger Zone is a game of visual air combat for 2 players. It is a game about saying cool shit to each other. Pilots will just like get around and tell stories, and those stories are like, yeah, and then I was like cutting up underneath him, and you were like across the nose, and then I had a good lock, but he broke away, and like it's just like they will tell a story in real time or slow time. They will go frame by frame through an air combat fight, but they don't talk frame by frame. They don't talk like. So then, I went left on my stick, and as my right aileron came up, and I like cut, I over G'd on the turn, and like I could feel it shake. They don't talk in frame by frame. They talk in fast forward about things in frame by frame. So they would just be like, and I fucking smash left on my stick, and as soon as I do it, like as soon as I smash on my stick, I over G the aircraft, and I feel it shake through, and like my altimeter's like scrolling down because I'm inverted, and like they'll just, it's like if they breathe, they die. So that's what this game is about. This game is about having those conversations where you and I are telling this story about air combat, and then there's like a mechanic in there somewhere. This game is very good at what it does. It needs layout before I can release it. It does need to be put up on my itch, but I don't have any layout for it at the moment. And like I'll do it, I'll learn, I'll teach myself how to lay it out. Maybe that's what I do, right? Maybe between now and then I actually learn how to lay this out by like layout Danger Zone. For release. Maybe that's what I do. And that's how I teach myself layout. 14th of August. I can do that. Okay, cool. I gotta get ready for work. Love you all. It's been real. Thank you so much for joining me today. I continue to be Sydney Chris. This continues to be Join the Owl. Partners in Crime, I believe, when I talk about it, when I talk about these characters, when I talk about the spark and the tinder, when I talk about shootouts and jumping fences, when I talk about fucking Elizabeth Bennet and Lydia Bennet out there to who's the woman that like pretended to be a priest so that she could make out with a nun and then burnt down the convent? Like that's the character that like delights me, that like gets me in here, where I'm like, all excited about stuff, right? Like that's what gets me. So I think this game is delightful. I just need to find a way to put these stories in other people's heads, and that's what this is about. I'm so excited. Like I've never... I lost excitement for Homefront really quickly because it was such a crushing... Like, because it had no delight in the game. I have never lost excitement for what what Partners in Crime is going to be. I think it's really special. I'm really glad that people have joined me for it. Um, I think that we're going to make something really special here together. And between now and next time, I will have Danger Zone. And as part of the joy for you being here with me, everyone who joins me on the next one will get Danger Zone. You're gonna get. I'm gonna release that to you. I'll probably charge for it on my itch because like I believe in some sort of fundamentally capitalism thing. But the people who are with me will definitely get to see that and get a copy of that. So, I mean, I guess that's a value add if you value the things that I make, which you probably shouldn't. But the last thing I want to leave you with is, ladies and gentlemen, and those who are neither, I want to remind you that this is really hard and that I have not done much between last time I spoke to you and now. I've just done a lot of ruminating, and that's okay. This doesn't have to work the first time. It doesn't have to be perfect the first time. It doesn't even have to be good on release. There's a lot of games that aren't great on release, but people still make wonderful things with them. So, with your own designs, just like keep pushing through. Just keep drawing the owl. Keep erasing it. Keep starting again. Keep drawing the owl. It is not as simple as people make it out to be, which has always been my fundamental thesis in making these videos. Until then, keep on giving a hoot.